We're live.
We're live. Welcome to Livebrush, your local and international Call of Duty stream. I'm Tyler Jacobson.
Dude, I said we weren't going to talk about Call of Duty on the stream.
What's
Oh,
up?
we're
How's
in it
everyone
now.
doing?
We're in it now. Good, good. How
We're
are
in it
you?
now. Good, man. I just wanted to help, like, for those of you watching on demand. I want the YouTube algo to go nuts on this. Like, it's was it like
Yeah.
the censors? You can't swear in the first like 30 seconds or a
Right.
minute
That's
or
why
something
we
like
save
that.
it. That's why we save it to the very end.
Yeah, to the very end, right? And so like we so I figure like call it's I think they're always listening, so I was like, oh, Call of Duty is pretty, it's it's hip.
Everyone
So
loves it.
yeah, yeah. Especially the bros. How you
You
doing,
know,
dude?
I'm good, man.
I see
I
Lord
am.
Adorable in the chat. Hello
Hey,
there.
Lord
Hello
Adornable. How's it
there.
going? Howdy. Hey,
Who's
hey,
that?
Alec Hamilton. Nice, nice. Yeah, man, I'm doing good. It's one of those weeks, just finishing up some pieces. I think I got one piece that's due sort of end of the week that I need to wrap up tomorrow probably. So yeah, no, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. I'm busy. Working on my shows, wrapped up the one piece for my show at Arcadia Gallery, or my group show last week. So I'm into my solo show pieces for a Ben Gallery that's going to be in November. So
Excellent.
full steam ahead. I actually was going to start a piece, an actual piece, a study, but I ran out of time setting up. But I will probably do that next week because I got to get those pieces done. I'm starting one upstairs, and I want to start one on the stream just so I can work on two pieces at the same time and people can see it.
All right.
But this piece, I wanted to show everyone. This is my finished comp from last week. Um, yeah, so it's all finito. It was mostly like web crunched to death.
It was it
Uh,
was it was like it had like a nice Gaussian blur on it, I think is a better way
it's
to
like
to
maybe
put
I
it.
like that better,
It had a
right?
real nice, like subtle, like we were in some fancy bathroom looking through some frosted glass.
Yeah, yeah. That maybe that's it. Maybe my artwork is best viewed through through frosted bathroom glass.
Yeah. It's a very, very specific niche hotel market that you're
Yeah.
shooting for. Wait, hold on. You keep talking. I'll be right
Yeah.
back in 2 seconds.
Okay. All right. So, um, sorry, I'm just listening to my audio just to make sure that it is okay. All right. Okay. All right. Testing one, two, three. I think we're good. Can everybody hear me all right?
I'm back. I'm back. What's up? What happened while I was gone?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they voted you off the show.
Really?
That's for
That
sure.
quick?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was barely
Yeah. Yeah.
gone.
Um. So, yeah. So this is the piece. It's done. I'm gonna go now. It's ready for me to paint. It's gonna be a 30 by 40 the painting. All right. So this is the new painting I'm gonna be working on today. This is a study. Let's see if I can zoom out here so we can all see it here. Let's see. This is a study I did. No one outside of maybe Tyler and people here, like around me, have really ever seen this piece, which is pretty cool. So you're
Yeah,
seeing this
I
for the
love
first
this one.
time. This is a small 6 by 12 painting, and I am going to be doing it's a study. I'm going to be doing the finish is going to be, or the final version is going to be 18 by 36. So I really wanted to. Um, the reference has a lot of information that I want to kind of distill down and get to the essential design and not break up any sort of repeating patterns that might mess up the painting. And so that's what I'm trying to aim for today in this paint over. That will basically just tighten up the study a little bit, so I can use this as reference for my when I go into the finished painting, which is pretty cool. So I'll be able to retain, this will be kind of a blueprint for myself, where like you see how thick the brush strokes are here. Well, that's cool. I could just take a palette knife and smear it across here, because once I'm done with the painting, I'll know that that'll work, and so I can have fun with that, which should be what it's all about. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
so what are you doing today, dude?
I'm just going freestyle. I don't know. I got this image in my head and I'm just going to kind of sketch it out. And I think this will be a good opportunity for us to sort of chat about like composition and what and design, or like why we do these kind of things. This is something Ray brought up before we started the stream. He said, let's talk about a little bit of design. So I agreed, and I didn't shut him down. I said, yeah, let's do it. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just going to kind of mess around with compositional elements, and we can talk about that as we roll.
Yeah, I think the design's going to be, I think, a forefront of what we're going to be talking about today. We got a first time chat viewer. Let me just checking the chat here. Nick DeLuca, very nice painting. Hey, thanks, Nick. Thanks for joining us. NetFest. This is the first time I'm able to catch this live. Very excited. Awesome. Hey, welcome. It's crazy. I could tell you. We edit out 90% of the YouTube pod. No. That's not true at all.
We cut out most of it. No.
Yeah, it's mostly Tyler that we cut out. It's like that Simpsons episode. I'm already dating myself, where he's like on like it's like a Dateline or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
And
Go on.
There's a clock. So he's like basically accused of something. I forgot, for like cheating on his wife or something like that. He's like, I didn't do anything, and he's explaining through this whole thing, and it's all like a misunderstanding and all this
By
stuff.
he, I assume you mean Homer Simpson, the person
Homer
the
Simpson,
show
yeah,
is about.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So, Homer Simpson. Yeah. So like, oh my god, the newscaster who's like the newscaster for the Simpsons was like super reasonable. It's like, yeah, totally, yeah. It's like that makes sense. And then like when they watch it at night, like when they go watch the taping, it's all edited and it makes them sound like a maniac.
Yeah.
But in the background, there's like a clock that like every time they edit, the clock's moving.
Yeah.
So
They do.
It's like we should have a clock behind us.
It's such a great like commentary on the media. It reminds me of that scene in Ricky Gervais's show, that Extras, with the like reporter that just shows up out of nowhere and like totally changes everything that he said.
Yeah. God, what a great! It is a great show. It's a great show. If you haven't seen that, that's
one of my favorites.
Yeah. Oh really? Oh man, it's really good. Patrick Stewart's in it.
You can't even
So
find
sad.
it. That's the thing. I mean,
What, really?
Not to get in the weeds on Extras or anything, but it's not available anywhere. You can't stream it anywhere. I own it on DVD. Kate got me a set of DVDs for it because you can't find it anywhere.
Wow, DVDs too. Not even Blu-rays.
Yeah, not even Blu-ray.
Wow, that's sad, man. That is sad. Wow. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So why design? Why are we talking about design? I was having a conversation yesterday, actually, in fact, with an artist by the name of Mark Carter, who's an artist that we've talked about, brought up a ton of times. Drawmixpaint.com. Um, and Mark and I were talking about just he was asking me about my painting process and stuff, and I was telling him about how I was getting into doing these like comps, and like how I always did studies, but these comps help me kind of push my studies a little bit further, so I can really design and have a good clear plan going into my final painting, so I can get a lot more freshness to it. And him and I were talking about, you know, um, how you could almost overdo it if you're not really careful. How like it can almost become like a cheesy mannerist type of thing. The way Mark described it's like he's like if you're not careful, then you become like to paraphrase him, like those painters that have like that do the Italian flamingo, like the flamingo dancers with the one square brush. You know what I'm talking about, Tyler?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, totally. Like I totally get that. Um,
Or like the Matador.
yeah, like the ink, like right, and it's like
Yeah.
the one, like really cheesy stuff. So it becomes kind of like disingenuous. The thing about art that you know, it's hard to, and this is stuff that like I think you get more into the weeds and the thinking of when you're doing your own personal work when it comes into the gallery world, because who you are as an artist, um, and kind of the reasons why you create the work become more important than are brought to the front a lot more than in like if you're doing you know card for magic or editorial illustration. It's not where that's like a collaborative thing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so it's really about you, and or what you're bringing to the table, because you're bringing the whole product. And so no one wants to be like kind of like dismissed because it's really easy to. I mean, just go on Instagram and just see how many, how quick it takes for you to just scroll past, images that you see like artwork, and some that might have taken someone 6 months to do, and you're just like, whatever.
Right. Right.
Um, and
And it's
so
always like the best stuff they're gonna show too.
yeah, yeah, totally. And so we were, you and I were talking about this too last episode, um, and about how like having a plan and going into things allows you to be clearer in your visual communication. Basically, it's be clear as like as either a storyteller or just like a visual communicator. And there are a lot of major examples. Everyone works differently, but there's a lot of examples of artists who have who seem to have like an effortless, like a really fresh finish, on things. Almost like it's just one coat of paint and boom, they were done. Like it
Hmm.
just took them 2 seconds to do.
It's got a lot of like
Um,
fresh energy.
yeah, a lot of it's energetic and it's almost like it just happened. You just missed the artists as they were leaving the room. You know, and how a lot of that stuff takes a lot of planning and a lot of time, a lot of development of the piece. And it's really a performance when you get to the finish. Um, and so, as for me, I really love designing things, and I'm really getting into it more and more, um, designing my shapes and being really conscious about that. Um, I was always like that in school and stuff. We were always taught about like good shape design and things like that, having everything readable. And um, when it comes to your personal work, it's a little bit more. I found like it might be a little bit more difficult too, because in school you were also learning just how to paint and like, okay, how do I get the color, this color that I want,
Yeah.
And
There's a
it
lot of
takes
other
so long.
obstacles.
Yeah, and it takes so long, right? It takes so long to just get that right that when you get to a point where you can do it, it's like, well, okay, now you have to kind of like you have to almost go backwards and deconstruct everything and devolve a little bit and simplify things, um, and hold back because it's no longer like a if you can, it's it's more of like more intent. It's like you're choosing to, you know, or and or you know, it's like it's not a matter of if you or can you. It's a matter now of should you. And you know, with a piece like this, I found like some of my work, I was getting frustrated that I was just kind of I was setting up my reference and I go through this whole rigmarole to do it, designing every you know all the values going in, and then like when it came to the painting of the finish, I would do a study and then I would just do the finish and I would basically just be copying the reference as closely as possible and trying to just paint, just not shutting off my brain and just kind of painting that. And at the end, you know, it kind of left me with like, there was certain things that got done and you know, it was effective. But at the same time, you know, there were things that like, I should have, I really liked this part. Or I look at my study and say, I like this part of my study. I could have integrated that into my painting. And um, I realized that the reason why I didn't was just because I didn't want to mess up on my finish.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was unsure if it was going to be right. And, you know, I thought to myself after like looking at, you know, artists, especially like David Dibble, you know, I've had nice conversations with him. He's incredible. You know, he really designs things and really gets the message so that it's of his artwork clear, you know, to the viewer. And you really feel the atmosphere that he's trying to achieve. And um, I really wanted that in my work. And I wanted to bring that kind of freshness back, and the freshness that, quite frankly, I have in my digital work, um,
Yeah.
into my oil painting work, because that's what I really love about painting, is to push that paint around. But you have to have a plan because it could really turn into just garbage, like a muddy mess, um, you know, within a few minutes, and there's really nothing to do except for letting it dry or just scraping it down. So. All right,
I
I digress.
no, I you don't. I think you're totally on focus here, but I totally agree in that there is that. I get that freshness digitally, probably because digital is just so flexible, and it's such a harder challenge to get that freshness for me traditionally. It feels for me it feels really forced, whereas I can get really fresh mark making digitally. So I don't know. It's something I've been struggling with too.
Yeah. No, and I don't think it's. I think it's really common, and I think it's one of those things where it's um, like I'm not thinking about, you know, oh my god, what happens if this doesn't work? I'm gonna have to contend. Like, you're not left with like problems when you put down as many problems when you put down a mark that you don't like digital. Like, if I didn't like this, I could paint over it, or I could just erase it, or I could just undo it. Like in oil painting, there's a lot of like or just regular painting. If you mess something up to quote unquote try something out, and a lot of you, you know, those of you in the chat know what I'm talking about in this. You know, if you mess up, if it's wrong and you're trying something out, then you have to repair it. You
Yeah.
have to fix the thing you did, and it's just like, you know, the pain of doing that, and your body, your mind's just like, I don't want to go through that.
It's
You
far
know.
less forgiving. Yeah.
Right. So you just kind of avoid it, right? And yeah, you're right. More or less forgiving. You're totally right. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Full disclosure. This all depends on the type of work you want to do, what your look is, and I'm not saying that this is the only thing that works well for me. For you know, this is how you do it. You know, because that's BS. You know, it's not. There's so many different. You know, it's 2022, folks. But I thought to myself, why the hell am I doing? Why do I have a process that is, you know, I could do studies. You know, I was thinking about what are my options. I could do studies, like physical studies, and look at them and try and take some elements from my studies and put them in my piece, and then kind of figure something out. You know, and I was thinking to myself, well, you know, why would I do that? It's again, it's 2022. Why not just use technology to my advantage? You know, I start my drawings in Procreate anyway. Well,
Well, it's cheating.
and
That's
I
why. It's just,
yeah,
you're
it's
cheating.
just thinking like, well, because it wasn't a tried and true, it's not a common way of working. It's like, oh, it's just a waste of time. Yeah, because time is always the issue. But I forced myself to do it for a couple of pieces, and the painting. I was texting Tyler, right? I mean, you remember that, Tyler? I was like, yo, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think having none of these things. If you look at like pieces like from Dean Cornwell, um, you know, uh, John Singer Sargent, uh, people like what I, there's so many people. Just pick them. Or I really I want to talk about more contemporary people. Like, let's just talk about like Carla,
Yeah.
Ortiz. Like if Carla does a scene, right, or Chris Ron does, or Cynthia Shepard does, right. It's not just like, let me just copy my reference. It's like a designed. It's a whole designed experience, uh, and that's the way movies are done. Even quote unquote realistic movies. So uh, I don't think I just didn't want to become like a copy machine and just kind of copy my reference, and that would be the end of it. And like, and have the success of the piece be, how close did I get it to the reference?
Right.
Even though I designed the hell out of my reference, and every color that's there, I put there. But
Which can
I
be
just
like a
felt that
thing. Like there are artists that work that way,
totally.
but you're trying to design it. You want the design to actually be there, not just like, hey, this is the reference I found. Check it
Yes,
out.
and thanks for clarifying that. Yes, there's a hunt. Like I work like that, but for a while, and it's totally fine. If that's what you want to do, that's totally cool, and you get really nice results. Shit, man, like the little laundry list of artists that do that, and they get phenomenal results. It's you get to a point though with an art, where you realize like there's things you can do, and you could do them fairly well, and you're pretty proficient, and you have to figure out what works for you, not what works for a bunch of dead people, or works for like you know people that you look up to, contemporary people. It's what works for you, and because until you figure that out, you're basically using somebody else's custom tailored solutions. That they solutions that they custom tailored for their own needs,
Yeah.
and your needs might not necessarily be the same as their needs.
And that's why it can be frustrating when you're trying to work like somebody else. Because I've done this where I've tried to work like someone else for a while, and I'm like, this is just so frustrating. And then
Yeah,
I'll switch to a mode that's a little more comfortable for me or more familiar, and I'm like, oh, now I'm back in my comfort zone, and I can actually be creative.
yeah,
It's so easy to get sucked into that, like thinking that someone else is doing it the right way, and
totally,
therefore it must be the way that you have to work. And
totally.
it's such an easy trap to get sucked into.
Yeah, and it's at first it's a necessary trap, right?
Of
That you
course,
have to
yeah,
walk into, because that's how you learn, right? And so, and this is all this is like the artistic journey. It's so rife with contradictions. It's like I don't want that for myself, but that's how I learn. That's how we learn, is by copying other people's procedures. Some of them are tried and true, and get you the results that you want. And if they do, great. I wish I could be like, okay, this is the way someone works. I'm going to follow this to the T, to the letter. It gets everything that I want in a piece out. This is all the results that I want. Good to go. Man, I would take that in a heartbeat rather than just struggling to be like, what the hell is it that I want to do? You know.
yeah.
So,
Well, there's been like
and I
plenty
think,
of times in my life where I like redrawn comics, like Todd McFarlane stuff or something. But I don't draw like them anymore. But it was useful stuff to help me learn for sure.
right. And you pick up on like this is what it's about, right? It's like if you look at somebody like McFarlane versus Mignola, Mike Mignola, they're two different artists, right? So there's no like, this is the thing, like there's no like, oh, this is what everyone was trying to look realistic or copy Neil Adams or like John Buscema or Gene Colan. and if they fell short, that's just their style or something, like that's their gauge on how good it is. Like, you cannot compare Mike Mignola to Todd McFarlane or Jim Lee, because they're two different artists. Like, it's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's
totally.
like it's a two different
And they were
two
figuring
different
it out.
reasons. Yeah, and they came to the art form for completely different reasons. That's the thing. It's like, I mean, you can't judge like you know, um, a jazz musician for not and compare him to like a punk rock musician, or
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I'm saying, like, or electronic, musician.
It's different genres.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And just different thought processes. But I think also, I think one of the thing that knits them all together though is like design too. Like, it's like having an intent and understanding how the reader looks, and placing that, creating an experience that um, captures the feeling that you're trying to get uh, across is, in my opinion, something that you have to curate. You have to be in control of that. Or that's where I have fun in it, is like controlling that, or creating that experience. And maybe that might just come from like my background in illustration. You know.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's something you have to be conscious of. Because if you're not thinking about it, I don't know, it kind of shows. The second you don't think about it, you're all the way through a painting, and you're like, I forgot to actually think about designing this out. And now I'm screwed. Like, I've done that so many times. It's like, I can't really solve this now because I didn't design it.
yeah, yeah. It's, gosh, it's. I think that's like it's such a, it's a problem you kind of like realize though, like, at least for me, it's something I realized well after, I started painting, because it's a thing that like you have your concerns are elsewhere, and you really start to realize, or you start to realize that the main, what makes an image is the design, and how strong it is, and what's it communicating, and like that type of stuff you can't even see until you've gone through all the other stuff of like, you know mixing the right value, or understanding how to use a brush, or gathering good reference, and so on and so forth. So, um,
Yeah, and that's all like, honestly, for me, that all that stuff is extra steps that I have to do to get to the final execution. Um, it's that the design comes from me in the sketch phase, kind of like what I'm doing here. I'm like trying to design this so that it's interesting. Then I can get the reference and line it all up just right.
yeah,
In fact, I've had times where I've gotten all this reference and then it's like broken the initial sketch that I had, and I have to kind of like throw a lot of the reference out.
dude, that's it too. It's like the reference. I think you can relate to this. The reference is helping you express the thing. It's not the thing itself.
Yeah, exactly. If you get all this reference and it makes like your initial drawing really stiff, like get rid of that reference. It's useless.
Or build other reference. Like, it doesn't have to be from a photo. It could be from a set of studies.
Mm-hmm.
Cue J.C. Leyendecker, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of like what Tom Scholes does. I don't know if you've seen his work. He does a lot of concept work, but he sort of uses the stamp brush to kind of pull shapes off of other paintings he's already done.
Oh, wow.
And so in that way he's not making new marks, he's using marks that he's already established, and he's not using the clone tool in order to pull like textures off of photographs. He's actually getting all these textures off of his own work. So it's like repackaging his own work for different expressions. It's actually a really cool effect.
That's like a rudimentary AI art generator thing, right?
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah, in a lot of
plugging
ways.
in your own work, right, and then having like all these variations on it.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah. So we have some questions here. I'm sorry, I
it's
have
all
my
right.
reference up on my other screen here.
We were waxing intellectual here.
All right. So Nick DeLuca says, we'll start with Nick's. I'm trying to grasp the concept. I'm trying to grasp the concept of specular highlights. I understand it conceptually when looking at reference, but for the sake of doing fantasy art, where you won't get perfect reference, could you discuss how to find where to put the specular highlights from imagination?
Oh yeah, I can talk to this, but if you got ideas, go for it.
No, I mean um my idea is I would like get reference in 3D.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say
But that's
you can
my
get
idea.
you can like throw together rough reference, but it's also you have to just for the way I make it up because I make up speculars a lot. Is there's two things I'm thinking of. The specular itself is a significant value jump. So the less of a value jump, the more it looks like a weird highlight and not a specular highlight. So you want the value jump to be significant. Like I don't know, there's no rule, but you want it to be big. Because when you look on anything that's shiny, wherever the specular is, it's many, many values brighter than whatever's around it. And then the second one is I try to think of where the light is coming from and then where that like that perfect right angle is going to be on the form. So I'm basically centering the light on the form, and that's where I'm going to put the specular. So if it's a sphere and the light is coming from 45-degree angle or 30-degree angle, that's where you're going to kind of position it. It's really hard to describe without drawing it out, but like on this guy, let's say it's on this guy. I'm using his neck. Let's say the light's coming from, like if this is a shadow, I'm gonna mark it here. I want the specular to be somewhere along there. And in most cases, you are going to have it sort of centered on the form there. Every once in a while, when you get like really extreme angles of light, the specular is going to move closer to that edge. But it's pretty rare. It's almost always within that third to center of the form. And if you can get it pretty close, you're there. But the key is not necessarily where you put it. The key is really the value step. It has to be significant. And also remember to think of your light temperature. So if the object you're painting is lit by warm light, the specular is going to be really warm. Not like fire warm, but you're going to like it's going to be as hot as like the white snow that Ray's painting there. And then if it's a cold light, it's going to be colder. So think about that on all your speculars. Like as you approach where that specular highlight is, it's going to get closer and closer to the actual light source temperature. If that makes any sense. Hopefully that was helpful.
Sure it was. All right. So we have that was a great question, great answer, and great question. Thanks for asking that, Nick. Lord Dornable, what's the best way to prevent yourself from overworking a painting?
What do you do,
Well,
man?
this is one of the reasons why I do these studies too. Is that like it allows me to understand where I need to put my efforts. And when you overwork a painting, it's basically just you. At least for me, an overworked painting is a painting that lacks intent and lacks a direction visually, lacks a design, like a clear design, and that could be just like as something as simple as like if you were painting a head and you overworked it, so you had all these small value changes in both um, light side and shadow side, but you lost the overall concept of like where the light source is coming from. So you lost kind of that separation. That's when it becomes kind of overworked, or when it gets a little bit noisy in terms of like you're pulling too much contrast into things.
Yeah, like when you get the equal value shift in the light side and the shadow side.
Yeah, and so if it feels like it's like all over the place and doesn't have that direction, it's I know that my painting's overworked, and so to prevent that, what I'll do, there's two things I do. One, that's the reason why I do these studies, so I don't overwork my paintings, and I could just get to the meat of what it is that makes this painting something that I wanted to paint, like what brought me to the subject, and what communicates like the feeling of me being there. The second thing I do is if I ever run into a place where I'm overworking it, it's usually because I don't know what to do, and I'm very timid, and I don't want to take any big risks because I don't want to mess it up any further than where it's at, you know. And so, um, what I'll do then, if that's the case, I'll usually take a photograph of the piece and then bring it into Photoshop and paint on top of it. Or what I'll do is I'll print it out and I'll paint on top of that, and I'll try and finish the piece off on a smaller version of the piece off in on like, you know, on a mounted piece of paper or digital comp, and that'll give me a direction. Then I can go back in and then know how to execute the painting. Um, but it's tricky. It's tricky.
Oh, that's a nice way to work. Gives you a chance to sort of step back.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and you know, when that happens, it's usually for me when it happens. And Tyler, I know that you've had like this issue too. It's usually when I don't really go through the process of designing stuff, and I just sit there and just try and noodle it, you know, like add in more detail because I think that's gonna help solve the problem. And really, it's something more fundamental about my painting
Yeah,
that
and
I
like
didn't address.
where these things happen to me are when it's like an illustration that's like way too prescriptive, you know, and it's like we need all these elements and they all got to be in this place, and then this thing has to be portrayed this way, and it's like I'm too busy thinking about making sure I get all those elements in that they ask for,
Yeah.
and that's when I start to lose all of that design. So it can be like really frustrating in illustration to try and get all those things in and design
While
it at the same
maintaining,
time.
yeah, while
Yeah.
maintaining the design. Yeah, it's like, yeah. But gallery painting is the same thing too. It's totally the same thing. Um, Second question: do you feel like you need a big online following to actually make a living as an artist these days? You know, I have some opinions on that. I don't think you do. I think having an online presence right now is the most effective way, and it'll change, guarantee it. Um, you heard it here first, folks. It's the best way to promote yourself. It's the
Yeah.
most easiest way to reach the most amount of people. And as an artist, you want that. You want to be able to be. You want a lot of people to know about your work, and specifically people that can support the work, or fellow artists who are in the same your similar industry, because that will create opportunities. You'll be known to them, and then you'll be able to help each other out. Um, and is it necessary? No. There are a lot of artists that are completely unknown to this world, that are working at places like Pixar. I mean, I bring him up all the time because he doesn't. I don't even think he has a website.
Doesn't.
Tim Avat
Yeah. He doesn't have a
is one
website.
of the he's one of the best artists. I'm gonna go out and say it's a hot take here. I think he's one of the best artists I've ever met.
Yeah, he's next level. And yeah, he kind of works. He does his job at Pixar, but he's not online or anything. I mean, I know a ton of artists that are really good at Valve that are the same way. They just don't. They're not online. I mean,
And they
what
just don't
like
need to be, right?
artists like Craig Mullins, like he has a website, right? But that's it. He's not all over social media. He doesn't have a huge presence online aside from his website, but he's one of the best known concept artists in the industry.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's sort of like you can be known for your work and how good it is, or you can be, and it's not, they're not mutually exclusive, of course, but the other part is like you can try to be a personality online. And I don't think one's worse than the other, but it just depends on how you want to exist.
Yeah, and also like it's just because you have let's just say like just because you have 1 million followers, let's just say, right?
Let's say.
Doesn't mean that all 1 million people want to buy your artwork.
Right.
And
They might want to see your content, but they might not have the ability or means to buy your artwork.
right. And so, and we're talking about livings here, like, I mean, and making a living and finding people to support your work because they want to see more of it. So you have to also be like, I guess, careful with that too. I mean, it's so it's not necessary. I mean, I enjoyed like sharing my work. At first, it was hard because it's like, oh boy, what does the rest of the world think? But like, at this point, I don't really care. I just want to share it, and I like going on other artists' Instagram, especially, and basically, and commenting on their work and stuff, and it's really inspirational for me. So, and been doing this live stream and talking to people, but it works for me. It doesn't have to work. It's not important that it works for everyone else.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you there. I wouldn't, don't abandon having a presence online because obviously that's just how the world works at the moment. But if it's not for you, like I don't engage too much in my social media. I post art, and that's about it. That's if that's the style you want to work in, go for it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, and then we have a first time viewer, first time chat. Barberto Lover. What's up? Hello, welcome.
Yeah,
good
welcome.
evening. I wanted to know, what would you rate as a great practice exercise for an artist to do often? Tyler, what do you think?
Oof. I've never been like that James Gurney, like do a sketchbook all the time, everywhere. It's never been my thing. But I will say that there is a lot of value in practice. Yeah. Try to draw as often as you can. And but even if you don't do that, I think the best advice I ever got was to look at artists. Like even if you're not drawing all the time, look at really good artists that are like professionals in the industry. As much as you can. Look at as many people as you can. Because it's very easy to fall into a vacuum and try and work from a vacuum.
Yes. Oh my God.
You don't want to do that.
Do not do that. You could basically, if you're not careful, you could convince yourself by what you design or teach the algo to do for yourself, to convince yourself that you are the greatest artist of all time, or that you have art that has incredible taste, and you're just an opportunity away from your big break, and you could really that could really be damaging to your career and just to your psyche. So yeah, looking at great artwork I think will help. A good exercise also is just to try and work in for me, working. One of the things I see a lot, because I teach. I've taught at universities for 13 years, um, and online courses as well, for like Smarter Art School and like Visual Arts Passage, and one of the things I see is, and I teach color a lot, and one of the big issues I see is just artists' handling of values. I think um, is something that's lacking, or something that the artist will benefit from just doing more of. It's just working in simple values like burnt umber and white, or black and white. If you want to get good at painting, traditional painting, I would just work in values, just white and a dark color like burnt umber or ultramarine blue, and you know, get good at lighting whatever you're drawing from. If you want to understand value, um, get a good, nice, strong singular light source. There's a lot of exercises you can do, um, like that, and that's actually something I do for my course. It's not a plug for the course. It's just this issue comes up a lot, and so we talk about it quite a bit in the course. So that's one of the solutions that I do, is just a nice, simple sort of black and white still life.
It's
Just
called
straight.
the course is called Ray Bonilla's Get Good. No, but I'm glad you brought that up, because it's like some of the best artists I know, their value structure is super tight. It doesn't even matter what colors they paint in. I think Chris Ron's a great example of this. Chase Stone is like an amazing example of super strong values. And I remember asking him years ago, like, how he was able to construct such good design. He was like, he worked in pencil like through most of his school career. So he just thought in values only, and how to make pencil the most, like how to get the most vibrant values and readable values out of it. So he almost just trained his eye to think and see in value in that way. And it really paid off into his color work.
It is so important. Oh my God. I really, it is so important. I think about that. I'm more and more thinking about that just these days. And, oh man, it's like everything. Let me find, dude, I was looking at these Walter Everett's paintings.
Oh man, good Lord.
Dude,
I saw a few of those in person that were just ridiculous, all black and white.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no one asked you to gloat.
I'm just letting you know that I saw them in person.
This is I don't know if it's popping up on my screen.
Yeah.
Dude, this is like,
I love that one. Like the way he's focused on just the shadow parts, and he's flattened out all the brights.
Look at that. That's probably done in full color paint. Doesn't matter. The values are incredible, though. See, this is what I want. This is what I want my artwork to be.
Yeah, that's just good stuff.
Dude, look at that. He pinches his values. Like, this is all designed right here, folks. Gosh, yeah. So we talk about a lot about that in the class, because it's a common issue. So that's what I would do, is value exercises. Check out people also just in on YouTube that have like really good exercises. People talk about it a lot, like Jeff Watts, great example. Watts Atelier. Mark Carter, Draw Mix Paint. And there's a bunch of other people.
You know what? This is an aside, but I've not seen our Moobot do anything in the chat today.
Uh-oh. Did I break it?
Did you turn it off?
Dude, I didn't touch it. Man. Let's see.
But what I was going to say to add to that, because I was thinking of the Moobot, and is we should start, just start like randomly linking a lot of the people we often talk about, which I think would be great for folks out there.
I agree.
I think they would enjoy it.
Yeah, you got to share the love, folks. Let's see. I'm gonna hop on the Moobot here. I gotta log in and do all this stuff. Oh no, I'm in.
Yeah, you should be in automatically.
Status all okay.
Oh,
It
weird.
says.
Yeah, I wonder why it's not chatting for us, but
Um,
no biggie. We'll do it live.
we'll do live. Let's see. Where am I? I don't know if I messed it up. Whatever. Yeah, I have no idea how to. Oh, what's this here? Is there a play button on MoveBot?
I don't know. I remember. I don't know. I don't know if the changes I made last time actually did anything.
Oops.
Technical difficulties, folks. Standing by.
There's no technical difficulties. It's just Ray doing dumb things here. Let's see. No, we're good to go. Yeah. We are good to go. MoveBot, we miss you.
Come back to us. Yeah, they're all on. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Well, I hope that answered your question. Welcome. All right. Dude, what am I doing here? Trying to design like a really creamy snow pattern that basically runs. I'm just going to give you some insight, folks. Runs like this. And I see it in the reference. Because I really want this area to be kind of the focal point to the most part. And I have it set up in my study and in the reference. I just have to. There's other little things like there's a lot of branches in my reference here that I really like and I want to integrate into here because it helps pull things forward. And a lot of stuff right here that is just a bunch of noise and I don't want to copy because it's breaking up the space a little bit too much. So I'm trying to organize these shapes a little bit more and tweak them so that they read a little bit more effectively. And that is always the tricky part. And
It's
I know
looking great, man.
I would have. Huh?
It's looking great.
Oh, thanks, dude. I know myself, and I know that like if I would have get to the finish on this thing, I would have just tried to noodle this thing, or just try and like get every little value in, and kind of miss the point. Or just obsess over the wrong things. It would have turned out okay, but it just wouldn't have turned out as well as it could have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the big thing. It's like I want to create the best piece possible.
I think that's a good instinct to have, though. The sort of obsessive perfection.
Yeah, I just want to be. I just want to get good, for once.
I think you're pretty good, man.
Thanks, dude. But seeing a Walter Everett who gave up and burned all his pieces, a piece from him is a nice wake up call for me to be like, yeah, you don't know that much, dude.
I think he was an extreme. Maybe he was suffering with color, you know.
He should have taken my class.
Most of the Everett pieces I saw were.
That's your cue.
Yeah, come on, move on. I mean, most of the Everett pieces I've seen were black and white, so maybe it was like maybe he was always envious of other artists' ability to use color.
No, dude, his color is sick.
I know his color's sick.
You're just trying to make me feel better. I appreciate
that. Yeah,
come
on, dude.
I really do. I know. I
Jeez.
appreciate it. I just think his color is insane, though.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take a look.
This is cool because this is kind of how we used to run our studio chats. Because we would look up other artists and put them up on screen.
Are you kidding
me?
No,
it's bananas. His color work was bananas. Because his values are so good, his color work was even crazier. Because he would go like crazy chromas.
Yeah. And then he just went crazy and... Well, I don't want to be insensitive about it, but he must have had some underlying issues, and he. There it is. To quote, I'll link you to a little thing here. Um, it's not showing up on my. I'll link everyone to the website. But I will quote the website, the illustration art website. It's really great. I don't know if it's defunct. It's old. It was a blog, but it's got a lot of good stuff. So he let's see. Then at the peak of his career, I'm going to quote a quote from the blog. Then at the peak of his career, in an act of howling madness. See, this is what I want my obituary to be.
Hell yeah.
Everett, quote, gathered the bulk of his life's work, unquote, burned it to ash and disappeared from illustration forever. Nobody knows why. I don't want that end to my career. I'm just saying, like, whatever I'm doing, I want it to be considered an act of howling madness. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you?
I would too, and I'm thinking on his experience there. What if someone was like, "Hey man, all your paintings are really great," and he was like, "Yeah, but I wish they were sculptures," and then he just gathered all the paintings up and smashed them. Like that could have been it. It could have been like he always wanted them to be in 3 dimensions.
That one like encounter.
Yeah.
It could have been the milkman, you know.
God, man.
Oh my God.
What was the one? The one that I saw in person, maybe 2 of them, is like the one with a lady kind of
Ugh.
resting on a hillside, I think, and there was like a sunset in the background. And like the way he it was all black and white. The way he painted in the sun, it was like, this is how you have to think. Like you have to think. Like the sun it wasn't 100% white. So it was like, this is the brightest thing in the image, and it's the brightest thing you're ever going to see. So he's thinking like, I know that this thing's really bright, but I'm not going to use white straight out of the tube, and that's going to dictate all the other values in the piece.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about, man. That's the type of stuff.
Yeah, I love it.
It's like I need that in my. That's the work. That's it. That's it. You know, that's what made those painters so good. Is their ability to control value like that. That's Howard Pyle for you.
Yeah, he was the master of it. All right, what do we got? We got another question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. Got the chat window obscured here, obstructed.
I'm just making sure we didn't glance over any. Okay. Lord Adornable, welcome back. Question: before getting your career off the ground, how did you manage to make an income, and was your art still a part of it? This is a great question because there's so many different approaches. There's no right way to do this. I was just trying to do the little jobs, right? Little like fantasy flight games jobs, whatever I could find that would pay money. That's what I started doing. I even was looking at game companies in the Bay Area before I started getting D&D work. So yeah, that was how I was getting my career. I was just doing as any little jobs I could find. I was working on those.
Yeah, man.
It's hard to. I mean, there's not much to say beyond that. I mean, I know a lot of people who are just working regular 9-to-5s too. So
yeah, and I think it's like one of those things where it's like, I had to. I found my solution to it was, I did work, like I took whatever work I could get, and then I also taught, and teaching gave me health insurance and things like that, and allowed me to just supplement my income. And the way I look at it now, at first I was like, oh, I want to just make a living just off my art. And the way I look at it now is more like, I want to diversify my income as much as possible. So I still teach. I don't teach at like a university level, just because my my work has taken more time away, is demanding more time of me than I can uh, that I was able to give. So teaching had to take the back seat, but I do still teach like online. I teach private art courses, um, as well, and those are a little bit more flexible schedule wise, so I can have more work, uh, more time for my work and things like that. But that's always like I'm always thinking about how can I diversify my income so that if one thing goes or it's nothing's really consistent, you're always thinking about, gallery sales might do well and then they might not do well, you know,
Yeah.
um, there are highs and lows and things. So there's different applications for, your work and you have to kind of figure that out. Um, and I think it's like, so don't get too fixated on doing that one thing. I mean, if you worked for a studio, that'd be a completely different story, right? I mean, there's like
Yeah, it's all there for
that's
you.
why, right? It's all there for you, and that's why people get studio jobs. Um, and Tyler, you could speak on it more than I can. There's pros and cons to it.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I just have to, I see it as the most important thing to think of here is like if you're trying to get your career off the ground, it's really hard to just go right into it, right? Even if you're getting work right away, you got to focus on that work, but it may not be going in the direction you want your career to go with. So, I mean, a lot of it is like, figure out how to get your bills paid and then push yourself towards where you really want to be. So sometimes that means like, oh crap, I gotta do work after hours or whatever. I mean, those are things you kind of have to just figure out how to balance.
yeah,
But more importantly is wherever your career is going to go, you want to make sure it is going in the direction you want it to. So this is like portfolio collection that we've talked about a million times, but it's like don't put things in your portfolio that you don't want to be doing. So you can talk about that in any way of getting your career going. Like if you're working in a section that's not where you want to be working, it's not like helpful to your career. Like Ray talks about like part of what was helping his career was teaching. Teaching was a huge part because it not only helps you figure out what you're doing, but it helps to keep your mind in the art space. I think it'd be different for either of us, like Ray or I, if we were whatever working at a gas station or working not in our own field. So even if you have to do those jobs, like try and keep it towards where you want to be going, because then you're keeping your brain in the space. I don't know. I think we could talk on this particular subject forever, but hopefully that was at least a good space. But also, yeah, like what Ray said, diversify. So if you're doing illustration, don't just do the jobs. Like try and set up a print store. Try and get money coming in that way. Try to do little things on the side. Little collections, sketches, all the little ancillary markets that exist. Try and work in those. Let's see what's next. What's next? All right, we got Barbatu Lover. All right. Okay. Let's see. I imagine you guys get asked this a lot, but Tyler, he bought my art book. Thank you very much. And was reading your section on your first commissions for Magic, and I wanted to ask you guys, what is something you guys could have done differently on your first commissions? Oh man, my first commissions. Good Lord. You got any stories on this, Ray? I did everything wrong. Let's just put it that way.
Well, at the time, we thought it was everything right.
Yeah. But it's sort of like once you're thrown into the fire, how are you gonna actually execute?
I don't know if I would have changed the thing. I mean, like, I can't even look at those paintings, but
I put my like first D&D commission in my art book.
I remember
as a rule.
So like you on the other hand can't not look. Like you had to. You made a rule of putting it in or point of putting it in.
Because
Um,
I think it's so bad, but I had to put it in there because like the thing we talk about on this stream all the time is, you
how
only
bad you are,
see
yeah.
people. Yeah, yeah. You only see touche. You only see like the good work that people post. Um,
Yeah.
and I thought it was important. Like, hey, I got this book. I got to show like the stuff that I think is crappy, really crappy, because that's never the stuff you see in this modern day and age of social media.
No, it's totally not. Um, yeah, I mean, you see, but the thing is, your eyes were so different. Like, man, I remember seeing that piece and I was like, hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about, dude. And
Well,
now, like, it's like pales in comparison to what you do now.
well,
You know,
thank you.
uh,
I can't stand to look at it, but I
it's
had to put it in there.
it's not too far removed, but I can still tell it to you. Still looks like a Tyler piece. No, yeah, man. No, it, there's nothing you could. It's like I think about that all the time, especially with like my paintings, like my gallery paintings. Like I had this book, this gallery. My gallery had a book printed with all the paintings in my solo show, and there are some paintings in there I look at now, and I'm like, I hope none of this book gets to see the light of day, or those pages magically fall out. Um, but you know, it's like I could have there are a thousand things I could have done differently with all those paintings,
Yeah,
and
that's like the meat of this question, I guess, is like what we would do differently.
right, and what we would have done differently is like it's hard to answer that question because we're I'm a result of all those mistakes. What I do now is a result of all the mistakes I made then on those pieces and all the other pieces that I've done. So I wouldn't have done anything differently if it got me to where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that was
Um,
actually what I was going to say. Something very similar. I was like, I think, and you put it perfectly. Like I couldn't have put it better. Was yeah, I'd probably keep doing those same mistakes because that's where I am. Like that's how I am the artist I am today, is from learning from those. It's kind of like a cop out. It's like, oh, I wouldn't use the time machine because then it would affect the time machine being made. But it's also super true. Like that's the best way to approach it.
yeah, I
Those
mean,
mistakes are really important.
yeah, I just think that it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's important to look back. It's always important to look back on your old work just to see every so often to see where how far you came for sure. Um, but I think the things that I would do differently, I'm putting in my new work,
Hmm.
and so I guess I'm looking at it from there too. Like I'm like, would I have, would I go back and change it? And I was a completely different person there. So like, no, I don't even know that person anymore.
Yeah, I didn't have the knowledge, but I guess
Yeah,
just to
yeah,
play the hypothetical, yeah, I would I wouldn't. There's two things I would do. Unlike that first D&D piece that's in my art book, the first thing I would do is not stress out so bad, which is what I was doing, and the second thing I would do is like I'd go back to basics, which I didn't do in that scenario. I just kind of like jumped in and didn't think about all the things I'd just gotten out of art school and learned. I would go back and I would have treated it like an assignment instead of way overthinking it, which is what I did.
but, dude, we like with like these types of those jobs. Somebody in the chat had said like I don't look at it. Let me pull it up here. Where's the chat? I lost the chat.
Oh, great.
I know, right?
Great, Ray. What are we
There it
trying to
is.
do
Got it.
here?
Nerfest said Fantasy Flight's not a small job in my opinion. I'm from South Dakota, so my view is skewed. No, it wasn't. It wasn't at the time for sure.
No,
You
no.
know, at all. Like
It,
it
but
was big, and it was like
I mean, relativistically though, I don't want to
Yes.
we don't have to argue, but it was small compared to even now. It was. I mean, back then it was $100 jobs. That was it. Like that's what they were
Yeah.
offering.
Right.
That means how much you want to get paid every week. How much do you want to get paid every month? So $100 jobs, you got $1,500 in rent. You know, you got to do 15 Fantasy Flight Games jobs a month just to pay your rent. So yeah, I mean, I know they're not small relativistically to anything, but they were small just coming out of school.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean that's it, right? It's like it's like the same as like doing your prices being like selling a piece or something like that, and like in a small show or something, and getting a commission or getting a show at a gallery, being in I remember like one of the first galleries I went to, that I got a show in was a place called Studio Gallery, which I really still love in San Francisco.
Oh yeah. I love that
You
place.
know, I've made it. It's a really great place, and it's a small gallery though. At the time it didn't feel like a small gallery though. It felt like that's where my career was, and that was a professional gallery, and it's still a professional gallery, but it's not like showing at a place like Principal Gallery or something like that, or a larger tier gallery. So it's all relative,
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't want to dismiss it. I just
No, and I'm not trying to either. I was just saying, maybe they're big now. I'm not sure what they pay anymore, but $100,
Right. Oh, yeah.
$100 12 years ago for a job was pretty rough.
Yeah. It was.
Let's see. I'm just trying to get through our questions here. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Why you do that? I will say that like there were small jobs, and I they didn't pay that much. I cut my teeth on them. I learned a ton of stuff on it. So I'll never look down on those jobs, but I'm glad that my career has allowed me not to take jobs like that. I feel really fortunate about that. So I digress.
No. Keep digressing. Come on. Continue to digress.
No, that's it, man. That's it. I'm not doing anything else. I'm very thankful for where I'm at. But it's like you have, it's never enough. It'll never be enough for you. Like as an artist, you'll always want to be pushing yourself more and more. So it's everything. There's a bunch of false summits too. So when you think that you've hit it, you've hit the upper tier, that you realize like, oh my God, there's a whole nother mountain over there that I can't even, I could barely see, So, and that's where I'm at right now.
Oh, dude, we got a question in the chat from Wolvie Chops, and Wolvie Chops is good buddy Noah DePietro.
Hey Noah, what's up, dude?
Also went to the Academy of Art. Went to the same school we went to.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining us, man.
So, question we've got. He's asking, first time viewer. Thanks Noah for joining us. I outed your who you were. I don't know if that's kosher or not. So
put your address.
I'll put your home address, all that stuff. So we've talked a bit about. So he's saying you've talked a bit about design, value, brushstroke, composition, reference, etc. Aside for the more technical applications of painting, how much do you guys think about story/narrative, and at what point in your process does it play the biggest role, or do all those design factors play a part and start to tell the story for you? Man, for illustrate, this is a great question.
This is a great question. Hot out of the gate.
For illustration, for me, it's like narrative and story is king to it. It's like the most important part of it. And I bring all those other things to bear in order to tell that story. But that's the absolute cornerstone of what I'm working in, and I'm sure it's the same with Ray. It's just a different format, right? Different way to tell a story. But
Yeah.
I'm telling more of a narrative that's been handed to me by an art director or company, and I don't want to speak for Ray, so I'll let him speak for him. But there are different ways to tell stories. But yeah, I think all the things we talk about when it comes to technical approaches to painting and all the theories and techniques, those are all the things you use in order to tell that story. So it's like a composer uses an orchestra to um, tell the tale they're trying to create. Where you have to use the orchestra for you is the medium you're working in, the all the theories on value and color and composition. That's the orchestra there. So I don't know if that's a strong analogy, but yeah, what do you think, Ray?
No, I mean that's it. I mean, uh, you're trying to get a specific emotional reaction out of the viewer, and a narrative, a specific story, like in the illustration case, is that means to is the platform that you do that, that you create that specific emotional reaction out of the viewer, and um, in painting, at least in my personal work, it's the same exact thing. It's a little bit more abstract in terms of like it's a feeling, but all of my pieces have a story behind them, and it's more important that you feel that rather than I have to explain it. So it's not as literal, but it's still as important to getting that feeling across. And so all like exactly like Tyler said, the whole point of all the strokes and all these colors is they're just tools in executing that vision, or executing what it is that you're trying to visually communicate. Um, so it's that's what fuels the design. It's not like I never design a piece without that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, and this is where like as an artist, like we get into we you get into different realms because different people are trying to say different things with their art. So as a fine artist, I'm trying to all these places are biographical places, objects, people. They're all settings that I've stood and experienced myself, and they're all based off of memories that I had, things that I was thinking about at that time, um, stages of my life at that time. All of that stuff is in these paintings. So that's why I paint these specific parts. I don't go out and say like, all right, I want to find a house in the snow that is with the sun coming down. Some people do. That's not the way I roll. It's like
Seems like
it's a
it'd be harder
byproduct of that.
almost.
Yeah,
Like to find that perfect situation seems like it'd be even more of a challenge
yeah,
than
and
to
that's
engineer it.
more like yeah, yeah, and it's not what like I don't care about the snow thing. Like it's a beautiful scene for sure, but I was more captivated by it because I experienced it at that time that I was walking with, and I remember you know these are just ways that I can sort of keep these memories,
Yeah.
preserve them forever. So like that's my narrative right there, and all of them have a different type of narrative. And I have, is it important that people know that narrative? No, but it's important that they get the feeling out of it,
Mm-hmm.
that I felt when I was thinking about that. Um, and that's you have to control that in your art. And that's what I was trying to do with these comps is to get it so that I'm expressing that as faithfully as possible, um, and I'm not letting my fears of the physical aspect, the limitations of me as a painter. I'm trying to get and remove as much of myself out of that as possible, and let the painting speak for itself. They're very like I use these words a lot because they're very kind of um, I don't know. They're non-descriptive and they're kind of floaty, and I do have to be careful about it. But it really is a visual language, so it's hard to describe verbally.
Yeah, dude, you use a lot of
It'll always
words.
come up. Yeah, it'll always come up short, you know. But fuck it, man. I don't care.
No, and I think there's another, like, at least from like the illustration side, not to tangent on you, but
No, no.
you know, there's a some Kate and I talk about a lot. There's like a big, I don't know, in illustration there's like in game stuff and storytelling there's like a difference between narrative and the world that you're in. So like the world building aspect, and there's a
This is good.
connection for
Good.
the thing
Yeah.
you have to work with in illustration is there's a connection between those two things.
Right.
An illustration is set within a world that has been built, and it's also telling a narrative within that world. So you have to come together in those two spaces, and that can be the challenge, at least for me in illustration. Is it's called, you know, the term we use is painting to a style guide. So you want to tell a story in the Marvel universe, well, you have to tell it within their world building.
Right.
So you're depicting a story within their world, or you know, my experience is I'm telling most of the stories I'm telling are within the D&D or Magic world. So I have to use their guide. I have to stay on guide for them because it's their brand and it's the look of their stuff. And then I'm telling the story within that, and that's another like side vector to think about when it comes to bringing all of those skills to bear on telling the story in illustration.
But that's why it's.
And
See,
that's
this
all I
is
have to
it,
say
though.
about
That's
that.
what. Well,
No,
that's
no, go
all I
ahead.
have to say about that. I think that's what makes it. Telling a narrative, it makes it such a incredible kind of endeavor, is because you have to bring all of those elements, together with that knowledge, and it's so, so hard to do that. It's not like because you don't know how to control those elements until you go through, like we were talking about before, with value and control and all that, all these like things that you have to get done. Um, and so that's where that's what we were talking about when we talk about that, like design and intent. Like that's it. That's what we're trying to get at, is like, what's my intent behind this? What story am I telling? How do I design this space so that it expresses this story? And then like, but that's the whole point behind like this approach. Now if I was doing concept art, completely different approach, right? It's not, because the concerns and the needs are different for it. So it might not be important that I'm setting its scene. It just might be an element of that scene.
Yeah, and in like concept art's point of view, it's the whole point is not necessarily the narrative, but the world building. Like,
Right.
where's the intent behind that? Like Ray's talking about intention in every inch of the painting, every aspect of the composition and the paint strokes that you make. Those are all intentions. The same as with concept art. The intention is to, how do I make this world cohesive, believable, and have continuity throughout. And that's a hard thing to think about, but I think it's important, especially in illustration or any paintings that you're making, is the authenticity. That's the world building aspect to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't, if you're drawing a warrior with, and he's fantasy based or whatever, don't just give him generic stuff. Like, think about every little thing on them. How do all those little bits of gear tell the story of that character? Is there like extra dirt on the clothing, or is there like some scuffs or scars or impact marks on their armor? All these little things tell the story. These are important things to think about.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great way of. Yeah, I think that's the. I guess that's the difference between like. I think in fine art, in gallery work too, like in personal work. I like calling it personal work. It's a little bit more like that, you know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um, you know, it's you you I we have, you know, you get beyond, you know, how do you make something like not an exercise, right? You have to think about, you know, all, you know, if you're just going to do a bunch of still lifes, right? This is something that we talk about. I talk a lot about with my students. It's like, you know, mostly in the university realm, but you know, and also like in my other classes, you know, when we get into my smart school class specifically, and my also my like the more the private lessons, so a little bit more like people have gotten their kind of, they have chops down there, and they're not asking like their needs or their concerns aren't technical, which are important, you know, but um, it's like, why do you want to do this, you know, you know, painting a an apple just to paint an apple is fine, you could totally do that, but if you want to be an artist, a gallery painter, and you want this to, you know, you want people to know you for your work, and you want work to be unique, or just, you know, express who you are. Um, you know, how do you not get written off by, you know, it's, you have to start asking yourself questions. You know, the question of why. You know, because if you don't, then the apple kind of turns into, is merely an exercise, which is totally fine. Again, it's totally fine. Um, but it will kind of always feel like that, unless you have something else to say about it,
Yeah.
right? I
And
mean,
that could even
that's it.
be, that could, like, the thing you want to say about it could even be technical. Like, I want to paint
Right.
this apple and primarily in color or whatever, you know, however you want to approach it. Like, what skill or technique do you want to focus on for that particular exercise?
Yeah, and exercises are great. I do them. You know, I do them quite a bit. I used to do them a lot you know, in school. Hell, I mean, I used to start a painting after a class was over, and I would just work on the painting as much as I could, and then, you know, I worked at Blick Art Materials in San Francisco, where Tyler and I went to school at, and
That
shout out to Blick.
never once did
And
Ray get me any sort of free art supplies. So I just want to put that out there. Okay, keep going.
yeah, I don't think I got a discount. You never came in. Not once
Um,
did you visit me for the free art supplies.
I think every time I went, you weren't there.
Oh, that
I think
is
I
that
saw
is so
Jamie
sad.
in there once. So yeah.
Yeah. All
So
right.
yeah,
Well,
take that.
so, you know, I would put the paintings up. We had a wall, you know, with the people, for employees who did, you know, who wanted to hang their artwork, and I'd put it up, and I would sell them here and there, and just for some just extra money, you know, and it was great, and they were exercises, and I was happy to paint them, and I learned from them, and I was good to go. But when it came to like showing at a gallery, they started to ask questions like, "What's your work about? You know, who are you as a person?" Because they want interesting work, and you know, the secret to all this stuff is also is that the viewer can tell, you know, that you're not thinking about things, you know, whether it's a design, you know, of a barbarian, or you know, a landscape painting or a portrait painting. You know, it's not, the viewer can tell that whether it's unique or not. You know, it's, or whether or not you're trying to connect with them. And
Hmm.
because when it's an exercise, I feel like it's kind of like just there's a wall between you and the viewer, and so people can appreciate it as an exercise and the merits on that. But like when you have something that tells a story, you know, when you see a piece of art, like let from on, like just concept art from like Uncharted, like that thing takes your breath away, right? It's not just some standard, you know, um, I don't know, like some like generic um, place, you know, that they're just rendering it up. It's a whole theme,
Yeah.
and so, and that's the main parallel within, like, that's it's throughout all art, you know, wherever your application is, wherever the venue is that your art is being made for. So I don't know.
I'm,
I'm blathering a lot, and
no,
about
I'm
making.
I'm glad you said that because I think it speaks to like portfolio construction as well. I've seen so many portfolios just have like everything that they did in art school in there. But it's like, think about these same things when you put your portfolio together. Think about the intention of the piece you're putting in there. Like, why are you putting that in there? What's it there to demonstrate? And if you do it that way, you're gonna actually have a nice curated portfolio instead of just this jumble of everything you've ever done. Which
Right.
and an art director is going to know right away, like, oh, they just put that in there because they're just trying to fill up space. But when it's like,
Right.
a really tight, limited piece, set of pieces, and each one represents a different skill set or a different problem to be solved, that's such a way stronger portfolio than just everything that you have.
Because it shows intent, and it shows focus.
Just focus and intent, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, as an illustrator, if you want to be an illustrator, you have to. And it's the same thing with a gallery artist as well. As you got to put together a cohesive body of work, but as an that is sort of laser focused at the venue that you want that work to be used in. If it's a gallery, then you would put together a cohesive body of work and you would go up to galleries that show work very similar to that. It's not just any gallery. The same thing for illustration. Like if you want to work for Magic, don't put in editorial illustrations.
Yeah.
Right?
Curate your presentation for sure.
Or celebrity portraits or something, because they don't buy that stuff.
Right. Show them the work that they're making or the work that they're representing.
Right, exactly. And that just means do your research and all that due diligence you have to do as artists. A lot of stuff you got to do that is outside of making the work. God, there's so much.
Yeah, I wish we didn't really have very good classes on this in school. And it's something I would, if I could give any sort of feedback to our art education, it would be to add more of this kind of stuff in. The business of illustration, the business of being an artist, a working artist.
I think about this a lot. I think having a class that would have something like that for portfolio presentation, sure, is important. But man, we suck so much that we needed so much work that like there's only so much time. Like if your work was garbage, I just think I think about this. Like your career begins right after you graduate. And like if you are lucky enough to have a focused portfolio, it's something that you would do for your thesis project, in our case.
Yeah.
And working with a thesis advisor to put together a cohesive portfolio. But beyond that, like you're wasting your money on promos, back in the day when people did promos. And all that stuff.
For sure.
Work was garbage. I think about that a lot. Like there's got to be a business class, because there's a lot of things that people talk about. I've been in other schools and we've talked about curriculum and stuff and at the university level, and like there are people that do it, but I think it's just going through the process of putting together a portfolio is super important and understanding that. And like the taxes and knowing that, but like that stuff just doesn't matter if your work is not good enough to get the work that you want. So that's the thing. Like it's also a balance, and I don't know.
No,
I
totally
question to answer.
Yeah.
It's not.
I agree, and I don't know what the answer is. Maybe it would need to be like a no grade philosophy class, which come on, let's be honest. Every philosophy class should be a no grade philosophy class, but
or have workshops where people come in and they like talking about how to put together. I think Craig Nelson was really good about that with us. With me with the classes I took with him. But he was very much about he intertwined business aspects of being an artist and the idea of like diversifying income. And he was the one who in Beaumont. Oh man, it's been a while since I.
I'm gonna get the Stream Deck going. I promise. So I can hit that.
Get the MoveBot. You broke it. Fix the MoveBot.
Hey, how did I? Oh yeah, I broke it. I'm gonna take the blame on this one. I can do it.
I know. The Boobot was working last time, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know
Oh
what
my
happened.
god. Yeah,
Maybe
I
by
don't know.
signing in, we ruined it. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it shouldn't. Obviously, there shouldn't be like a formal home ec type class that's like, this is how you do all of these things for illustration. And now we're going to test you on them. But it should be a subject that comes up a lot more than it did for us.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I just think that it's also like it you need like a basic for sure, like this is what you do, and everyone, we were told like, okay, enter the competitions, have a good portfolio. I just think that it's like you don't realize like, okay, so you put together a portfolio, you go to this thing, and you think like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get work. And it's just like it's so not true.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
I
you have to
threw out most of
understand to fine tune it and
it.
everything.
Yeah, and it's like I had to do so much extra work just to get like you're redoing your portfolio all the time, and hopefully with professional work, but even that with samples and things like that, because you're trying to get in.
That's why
Um,
I'm thinking like a philosophy class is better because like how to think about this stuff as opposed to like the method of doing it.
yeah,
Like there
I
could be
I
aspects
also
of how to do it, but it should be like if it's not working, this is how you can course correct, or you can think about how to course correct.
I just think that like I 100% agree with like the value of that, but I think it's wasted on a student who doesn't hasn't experienced that.
Yeah, that's true. It is hard to
It's
be
like
like, this is what it's going to be like. Get ready.
right. It's because we talk about like students in college, it's like this, the teacher's like, when you get out in the professional world, blah 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 blah, and I remember I fell into that trap of saying that, and I'm thinking, and eventually I was like, I was talking to a class, and I was starting that like in the professional world and as a professional, and then their eyes glazed over
Yeah,
because
they
they
don't
have no
care.
concept. They have no concept. They don't know what they don't know, right?
Yeah, and it's not that they
So,
don't
and I
even
don't
care.
blame
It's
them.
that they just they.
No,
It's like you're talking about an experience they've never had.
right? It's an intangible. It's like, you know, getting married or having a kid. It doesn't like it's not like you can't explain it. You have to go through it, and you'll understand it once you're going through that. And so a lot of advice that I had was like, what? Like what? Okay. Okay, I'm getting portfolio ready. Get the portfolio ready, and this is like the what I have, but like it didn't make any sense until after where because I realized like I figured out what it is that I wanted to do. There's so much growing. Like you're only think about it, it's like you're 21. You're in your 20s when you get out of school, or in our case, we were 26, 27. Like it was our first time out of school trying to make livings, and that's like you just have to know how to just learn how to survive first, and like what it is that
Yeah,
being out as an artist and like your day to day, and like
there's no way to
learning that, and
teach
then
like how to juggle a whole bunch of jobs at once or how to pull an all nighter. Like there's no way to
no,
teach that kind of
no,
stuff.
right,
Which I
and
which
like
I
what
did. We both did routinely. Like I mean, I did so many editorial pieces where I got the job on a Wednesday and I had to turn it in on a Friday, and no one at school taught me how to deal with that or how to even approach that.
no, and how the hell could they? Like
Yeah,
what things they could have said,
it's gonna suck.
right?
That's what they should have said.
Yeah, it's just like what things they could have said that would have prepared you to be like, I'm prepared to do this. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's a Bill was pulling all nighters in his 60s. Like
yeah. I know. I
like
was over that after 10 years of doing it. I was like, I want to work with clients that don't work like that.
right. And some people really thrive in that. Like all that stuff. Like we talk about like that's a classic example. Some people really thrive in that. It's like adrenaline rush for them, and
Yeah,
other people
for
don't.
sure.
But like you don't know that until you go through that. Like
Yeah,
you can't pre-plan all of that stuff in school. It's just not it's not realistic to expect that. And I get it. I get it though. I totally get why, at least that's my opinion. It's just like in places like smart school, we deal with that stuff because their students are like, okay, I have some, or like visual arts passage, I have some experience under my belt. Here are the issues that I have. Like that's the experiences you've built from that, from you being on your own, I mean, that they're priceless. You know, they're not gonna, don't discount that. That's like you figuring out yourself and who you are as a person, and that's like essential to being an artist because you have to figure out what the heck you want to do
And what you can do, like what you're
and what
capable
you
of
can
doing.
do. Right, right, exactly. Uh, so, yeah. All right, I digress from that question
Okay.
2 hours ago.
That's all right. That's all right. Let's. What are the questions we got?
So, what was the question? What brush I use?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What's your brush? The most
Oh no,
important, crucial question in all of art.
what software? No, it's a good question. I asked it all the time.
Oh, what
It's a good
brushes do you
question.
use? It's a good question,
Yeah,
but I think it's
yeah,
a good question to get people to an answer that is more enlightening. The answer should be that's irrelevant. Now let's talk about mark
yeah,
making.
yeah,
But
yeah.
let me move on to another question because we've talked about the brush mark making thing a million times. Have you from Nedfest? Question: have you entered a lot of art competitions?
Uh, I can start first. Yeah, I have for sure. Society of Illustrators, Communication Arts, Society of Illustrators West. I've done Spectrum a couple of times. You're not going to get into a lot of them, most of them,
Yeah,
but Richardson Art Competition for the fine art stuff. But if you do get into them, they're good. It's good publicity for you. And if you happen to are lucky enough to win an award, it's also it just puts you on the map, and it gives you, I guess, credence. Is that the right word? It gives you basically like validation to your peers. Um,
yeah. I think that's the most you get out of a lot of these things. Is
oh yeah, yeah. But you could say that, like, I can. You could say like, I know when I'm, this is why I am. You should take me seriously because I've won these awards,
yeah, which were evaluated by your peers, right?
which
The
they are
people in the
evaluated by my
industry.
peers.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's also good for, yeah, it's just good for building your name because you could use that to then build your name. But back in the day when the to the channels that people would go to find artists were much more narrower, right? And they were like the illustration annuals, source books, word of mouth, um, the printed stuff, the actual stuff that the actual product that the stuff was printed on. But it was mostly like those. That's the illustration annuals were a big, but the competitions were a big place for that. Um, Now it's not. That's not the case. I mean, the people I've gotten a lot of stuff from Instagram.
yeah.
The people they don't look at websites. Or like it's just always changing though. It's always changing. So, um, but it's still. I think it still matters. I think it's important, and I think also it's important. It's something Thomas Blackshear said this in an interview that he had. He said, all these awards they're great. They don't really mean much, but they're a confidence builder.
Yeah, that's I was gonna say. Like that's I think the biggest. If you're getting anything out of them, it's a confidence builder. Being
Yeah,
being given accolades by your peers in your own industry is
yeah.
definitely good for your own confidence levels.
I remember like when I won a gold medal from the Society of Illustrators. I remember like all of a sudden it gave me access to all these artists. Like they all talked to me like if they were their peers. Like Tyler was there I
Yeah.
remember hanging out with like Greg Manchis, Mark Summers,
Hmm.
like just like
At the Society of Illustrators in New York, it
at
was
the Society of Illustrators.
pretty amazing experience.
Just like, man, it was nuts. And it's like hell yeah, man. Like all my hard work paid off. Like um you're still the same person, you still have the same bills to pay and stuff at
Yeah,
the
you
end of the
still got to
day.
work as hard, if not harder, afterwards.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So
But
it's not like you could just if anything you should be pressing on the on the gas harder. But
yeah,
it's a good it's it's just it just reaffirms like, okay, this wasn't like this is something I accomplished, and people. It wasn't just me that thought that this was good. It connected. It connected with peers. It
Hmm.
connected with people, and I think that's yeah.
I
I think
think
that's important.
I think they're important. And I think this is definitely a sort of mixed subject, right? You're gonna get a lot of. I know a lot of artists that think award shows are crap, and they never get involved in them.
Yeah.
But I like for all the reasons we just said that they're important. I think they're great. But I think if they're important to you, that's what matters. Then you need to gear yourself towards entering them, and you're going to lose. You're not going to get awards for any of the shows you don't enter stuff in. So if awards are really important to me, into you, go look at all the places that do awards and submit. Like you have to get your art out there in order to win any awards. But if they're not important to you, then don't waste time on it. Don't even think about it.
No.
I mean,
Right.
it's
Right.
irrelevant to the things that you want to achieve.
Right.
You might get some exposure out of them, you might not. But if it's really important to you and you want to also get the potential exposure and be seen by your peers as a an achieving working artist, then yeah, get involved in those shows. If you don't care, don't.
Yeah. Don't do it. I mean, I met. Yeah, it's so weird. I'm just imagining like what I'd be freaking horrified if I heard myself talking about this in the past. I'd be like, "What do you mean, man? The awards are everything. This is how you've heard the stories. People win an award and then they're just riding to
Yeah,
the sunset."
those are so
With
anecdotal.
yeah, there really is but it's also just it's a snapshot from a time that doesn't exist,
Yeah,
right? I mean, it's just like it's just think about early YouTube, like
yeah, and
people
the
got
in the
famous and they had
awards
like
there.
yeah, right. Yeah, they have awards at YouTube
I
too.
mean, there was like the big YouTubers back then. They were like they thought they were the new
Maybe five hundred
celebrities.
thousand, or maybe
Yeah,
like
or a million
now
views or
they're like
whatever.
millions and millions of followers. Like the bar is set higher and high. It's not also like that might not even like those platforms, and that's what the award shows are. Like those venues might not be. They go up and down in terms of relevance too. So, but I met a lot of great artists, and I got a lot of great connections.
Yeah,
Um,
and networking's going to be
that
the most important thing you get out of these, anyways.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's super important. I think that's really important. Um, so like, I through awards shows I met, you know, incredible artists like Sam Weber,
Hmm.
and like I met Sam. He's an incredible artist.
Oh yeah,
Oh my
one of the
god,
best.
so good. He's so good. Um, Illustrator and fine artist, and like uh, through him, I met other artists and stuff, and got connected with Smart School, and like then met people through there. Like it's just, and now all the other award shows got to meet. Like I remember I was hanging out, and um, at the Society of Illustrators shows where I won my award, and the person that won a gold medal in another category was Donato Giacola, and like that was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
first time Donato was like, he knew of me because I met him a couple of times, but like he really remembered my name. I felt like that at
Hmm.
that point because he knew, like
Every time
um,
I've met him a few times since and brought you up, and he's like, "Yeah, Ray, he totally remembers you." Like I think that was a significant moment that
yeah.
he remembered.
I've had shawarma with the man now, so we're basically like, and I teach
You're
with him now.
brothers
But
now.
yeah, so like it's weird, it's weird. Yeah, it's pretty wild, right?
Well, I think
Um,
what like the way you bring that up, it leads me to thinking like because I've been trying to think like, yeah, what is the main value? I think for me, it's always been because I've entered tons of award shows and I've received awards, and that's awesome. But for me, and I know a lot of artists that are like, oh, I don't care for that. I'm never going to get involved in that. What's the point of it? What a waste of money, or who cares? Blah blah blah. But for me, it's like I'm actively getting involved in my own peer group and community. That's what's important to me. So
yeah,
um, I'm interacting, like, like Ray said, when we went to the Society of Illustrators, like, we're there interacting with peers in our own community. We're not like painting off in the shadows and not getting involved in the community in any way. And you don't have to do that through award shows, of course. You can do it through just, just reaching out and messaging people in your own community. But I like the aspect of the award show or the competition because it's celebrating all the art that's done by the community.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's, you got to remember too, I just saw a thing in the chat, and that fest is love hearing you guys talk about the industry. It really gives me hope. Like, you have to remember, like, Tyler and I were we were students who were just looking at Spectrum annuals, Society of Illustrator annuals, and we would be at, like, German Beer Hall, Schroeder's in San Francisco, just scared out of our minds, being like, what the hell are we going to do?
Yeah, just pouring over some
like,
Spectrum book and being like, holy crap,
like,
these dudes are amazing.
They're so good. Like, and like, we are so not yet, like, what are we going to do? This is our last shot to, like, get this going. We're going for a master's degree because we didn't get the training we needed in our undergrad. And, like, this is it, and, like, what if we fail, and, it's like one of those things where you just got to kind of persevere. I mean, we would always sort of end with, like, we would always have that conversation. Everyone in school always arrived at that conclusion, like, what are we going to do? Oh my God. And then we always came to the conclusion where, one of us said, I remember always saying, like, I'll see you on the other side. It's not like, that's all I would say. I'll see you on the other side because I'm going over that hill. I'm not going to stop,
Yeah, it wasn't. That was the thing I think I've mentioned a bunch of times when, people have asked me, like, well, what were you thinking you're going to fail? That was never even an option. It was like a NASA-like thing. It was like, I'll see you on the other side of the hill. Like, we're taking this hill, and I'll see you over there. Yeah.
It's like, there's no, you just have to, and it's such a foolish, like, belief in yourself that is it just doesn't make any sense as illogical, but you gotta invest in yourself, and you gotta believe that you're gonna give it a shot, believe in yourself enough that you're gonna give it a shot, because otherwise, if you don't take yourself seriously, no one else is going to. And I think that's the thing, like, you've got to be at the forefront of that. And you realize when you talk to other artists and you meet them, they have the same attitude, which is like, oh yeah, and everyone has a different path, everyone has a different path and they have different struggles. And just because an artist seems like they're doing all hunky-dory doesn't mean that that's the case. They have different concerns. I've talked to artists that are whom I thought were just like, man, like, it's like, I want their career, that's it, straight out of school, just like killing it. And then, like, I talk to them and they have these, like, all these other concerns, and I'm like, man, I don't have to deal with that, I don't have to deal with that, boy, like, that's rough, or like some of them are frustrated, I'm not gonna name names, but other ones, just like, this shit sucks, like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this type of work anymore. And, like,
it's not what they thought it was when they were going into it.
It's not what they thought it was, or like, there's no growth to it, and they feel stuck, and it's like,
or they just don't like certain aspects of it.
Right. Or they've never had, and they're asking themselves questions that they never had to ask themselves because they had such preliminary, success. It's like, oh shit, I'm so good at this. Now, what if I don't want to do this anymore? I never thought about that, and like, oh my God, who am I?
Yeah.
What is life? Like all this, like this existential, like, crisis. And I'm like, shit, I went through that my first 5 years, like, immediately,
oh yeah. I think the first, like, month out of school, I went through that, which I could see. It's like difficult if you didn't go through those things right away and you just had a career. And then you're like, wow, what is this? Like, then it's going to be demoralizing. But I don't know. I feel like we had to answer those questions pretty dang quick, right out the
Yeah, and
gate.
also they don't always change. You realize, right? I mean, that's the thing about there is no such thing as like you realize. One thing you realize is that it really isn't like a professional artist industry. There's just a bunch of opportunities in venues. That's the way I feel. It's just like there really isn't like a. You know what I mean, Tyler? It's
Yeah, I
like
mean, I wish there was like, some guild or something that was like, and these are the jobs that are out
that'd be
there,
sweet, man.
but there isn't.
Let me get like a
There's not.
coat or like a kilt. I'd rock a kilt.
Yeah, or
Or
like,
like
some support like you have in Hollywood, with all the guilds that they have there. But
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
don't have that. We don't have that at all. It's
Don't
just go for it.
don't don't gild me, bro.
I've even been
But
asked that, man, like doing some potential jobs for like people, adjacent or close to Hollywood. And that's always, anytime I get on a video call with them, it's the first question. It's like, are you in the guild? And I'm like, what guild? What are you talking about? For analog artists? They're,
it's great.
yeah.
That is great. That is great. You should have said yeah. Well, they have to have cards, right?
I think there are
Oh, maybe you shouldn't have
I
said
mean,
yeah.
based on from some of the people I know that work at Marvel and stuff,
There's no guild in Marvel.
there's no guilds, but they are part of like a creative art group guild that's in Hollywood, and that's the only, if they live there, that's how they actually. Well, it's if they live in the area. So I was out of state, so it didn't matter. But because they lived in that area, they had to be associated with some guild stuff. I didn't know the ins and outs of it. It was very strange, but I'll find out more so that I can actually speak truth to that in future broadcasts
I don't know, man.
of the Livebrush.
I feel like we're getting into like if we, manifest like some heat on us. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, like
I call the power of the
you
guild.
get, like, yeah, you get dropped from all these jobs or something like that, or like you just like they go in different quote unquote different directions.
Yeah.
And then like maybe the Moobot breaking. I saw the Moobot pop up.
Oh, you did?
So I think I did. Yeah. Once.
Oh, okay. Maybe
but
the
like-
times got screwed up on Moobot.
I don't know, but like maybe that's the guild.
Yeah. It's like the secret
You know what I'm saying?
secret society, Illuminati.
Yeah. So I don't know. Just, oh God. Oh my God. All right. So we have a 3 minute. 3 minute. Whatchamacallit, warning. So one of the things that we actually wanted to talk about was, and I'm just gonna copy and paste this stuff from. There we go. Oh no. I want to copy and paste one of these things from the Moobot here because this is important. So we have. Oh yeah. What time? Oh yeah, Vision X. All right. So we are actually on a. Sorry, I'm doing two things at once. There we go. Did that work? No. Whatever. So Tyler and I are actually going to be on at Vision X Art Conference, and which is really really cool. This is the. There's Moobot again.
Hey, Moobot. Finally showing up. Been listening.
So I put it in the Livebrush thing. So on Friday, July 29th, we'll still be doing a show, I think, on the next Wednesday. But Friday, July 29th at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard. So the same time, but just on Friday. And this is going to be an hour, just an hour stream on the Vision X because all the demos are on there. But it's an incredible art conference, all online, that people like Nathan Fawkes, David Dibble, Angela Sung. I mean, like people from the concept art, illustration, but like a lot of concept artists, as well as gallery artists, as well, are going to be presenting there. And you have galleries as well. They're going to be there. tons of things, and they all have demos, and there's keynote speak, everything. And we're going to be demoing on Friday. I myself will be demoing on Sunday, talking about digital workflows. So that should be a lot of fun. Like
Awesome.
starting in digital, finishing off traditionally. So that's going to be pretty cool. But reason why we're talking about it is if you wanted to buy a ticket for it, make sure you use the code that we RBO22 if you're going to buy a ticket, because that you'll get 30% off the ticket price. Don't pay full price.
Why would you? Don't be a sucker and pay full price when you can get this discount.
So we got this discount code for everyone, so you can get 30% off the whole thing. I think it's awesome. I think it's an awesome conference. The cool thing about the conference is there's so many demos. It's insane. But the great thing about it is that all of the videos, all the demos, all the lectures, you can actually go back. Once you get your ticket, you buy a ticket, you can actually go back and see everything on demand.
Oh, wow. So it's like the ticket itself is you getting a workshop, essentially.
Basically,
like a permanent workshop that you can always refer back to. That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm like, this is like, I was thinking about just signing up for Vision X, like just going as an attendee, and then I got asked, we got asked to like to have a quote unquote virtual booth at it, so to be a part of it, and it's pretty sweet. So I'm super excited about it.
Me too. It's going to be a lot of fun.
About it. Yeah, it's going to be great, man. And so if you're interested, just the link's right in that in the chat bot, not the MooBot. No thanks, MooBot. But yeah, for more information on all this stuff, and see if you have an artist there, and you can all of the demos are interactive. Like you have a chat, so you can ask all the questions that you want and things like that, and it's pretty cool. I'm like, I can't wait. I can't wait to go and pop in and see other demos, man. I'm gonna learn so much. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, but it'll be a cool Livebrush experience too, and we'll have a slightly different format, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, slightly different format. Tyler won't be swearing as much.
I'll clean it up just for that.
I won't be throwing as many chairs, but that's it, man. So I'm going to be continuing to work on this, I think. I do have a plan to go back to, I'm looking at my study right here, my physical study, an actual painting, a real painting on my easel. So I might return to a live easel look. I might not. I'm not sure. I'm really liking where this is going, so I might finish this off camera or wait for it on stream. Who knows? Yeah, so I've been Ray Bonilla. You can find my work at raymondbonilla.com and on Instagram at Ray Bonilla Painter. And who are you?
I have been Tyler Jacobson. I have been and always will be Tyler Jacobson. You can find me at tylerjacobsonart.com, and my Instagram's Tyler Jacobson Art. You can also, we'll be putting up the VODs on YouTube, the Livebrush YouTube, so you can go check those out. We have all of our past episodes on there, so please check them out, and I don't know, throw us comments, tell us how terrible we did early in the production of this show. Give us some crap.
Yes, and thank you. Thank you for those who are watching it on demand. We always appreciate it. Please consider leaving a like or subscribing too as well. For those of you that want to keep up to date on when our shows are, and if we have any cancellations and to see art, consider following us on Instagram at Livebrush. We'll have all the show announcements there, as well as images of the paintings that we're working on show, full res pieces. All right, so thank you so much, everyone. Really, really great chat. Always appreciate it. And thank you, Tyler.
Thanks, Ray. See everyone next week.
Everyone. Take care.
Bye.